age 38 to 42, leaving Saturn, going to Uranus. And I wanted to speak to you about that because I turned 38 in June. So it's just like completely, again, in line of like where I feel I am in my life. I'm finally in the place where it's like, out of the muck and all of the internal work, which, still gets done, but it's in a way where now it's not so uprooting and confusing. It's like very much more integrated, easier. And I see the lessons and patterns, much more clearly now. And especially like just in the last few months or so.
Okay.
So I wanted to get more perspective on that.
Okay, that's a pretty good place to start, to be honest. I noticed that I've got a bit of lag on my screen. Damn it. Okay. Well, the cycle between 38 and 44 is quite a big transition, actually, in terms of your spiritual life, because it's where the soul moves from the solar plexus chakra through to the heart chakra. That's basically what it means in terms of that there. And the archetype of Chiron in somebody's birth chart actually gives quite a lot of information about how to move from the third dimensional sort of physical realm of spirituality and transition more into the electrical body, which is the Uranian field. Okay, so Uranus specifically correlates to the electrical body. It is the body, this is the field that you exist within. Everything is that light wave, left and right. So what happens here is that as you transition from 38 up until, I would say roughly about 42 would be when everything starts to become really, really crystal clear. Okay, so you're just entering that phase of the Uranus opposition. It's now becoming apparent to you that and then this is how it works, is that as you move from the solar plexus chakra through to the heart chakra, Chiron is that kind of rainbow bridge that connects the Saturnian archetype of our consciousness, which is our physical senses, and connects it to the spiritual aspect of our lives, which is Uranus. And because Uranus correlates to the unconscious, okay, it's connecting it to the things there. So firstly, for anybody that's watching this and including yourself, Chiron plays a big role in how to integrate those two. Now, the transition between 38 and 40, based on what I've said, is one where the soul moves from its physical conditioning of disseminating into society, doing what society wants it to do, rules and regulations, paying the roles, etc., into the more spiritual work. And that's when you start finding your individuality. So the kind of like blueprints of your future, Uranus, starts to become fragmented, clear to you. That's sort of kind of like this one of these paradoxical statements where exactly how you've expressed yourself. The transition is, how do I find my individuality? In contrast to society's definitions, rules, regulations. So that's what's happening. You're breaking free from that mold, as it were, and now becoming and seeing yourself as an individual person and your own individual journey. And then as you become more and more aligned with that process, you reintegrate back into society. But this time around, the way that you see yourself and how you present yourself is individuated. So that you're not following everybody's rules and way that things do. It's your rules, your individuality, your essential instance. And that's what happens. The transition between 38 and 42 is that becoming aware process, that activation of the heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye chakra. And then, of course, as you get older into your life, the crown chakra. So you're activating those parts, your spiritual work, as it were, which is why you'll feel that this is your message. So that's what's happening. Now, I've watched quite a lot of people go through the Uranus oppositions. I'm intrigued to see what my own's going to bring me. But what I've seen so far is that a lot of people actually try on different types of identity structures. So what will happen is you'll go down a route, you'll try some different things, and then all of a sudden it will feel different. Like, nope, I don't want to try this anymore. Then you want to try something new, and you'll notice how erratic these choices and things come into your life. And you'll be going on a road and you'll be like, oh, I got it. And then all of a sudden it just doesn't work anymore. Then you try a different avenue. And it's kind of like a puzzle piece being put together, where over the 4-year duration of this cycle of Uranus opposition transition between 38 and 42, the soul is becoming interconnected with its individuality in a way, and that blueprint is not something that happens in a consistent way. It like comes in shock waves. That's why I say putting the puzzle piece together. You'll try something and it'll be like, okay, that's going over there. No, put it back in the pile, try something new. And then once you've built this picture a little bit more, the puzzle piece that didn't fit over there becomes now available. It now fits in. And the way that you see that is just different things working at different times. It's a
Do you,
really,
do
really
you
powerful place.
do you think specifically for me that's amplified even more because of all of my Gemini?
Yeah, precisely. I would absolutely say that that's the case because, exactly. The Gemini archetype itself is wanting to have that diversity. And that's a big part of your own soul's growth, considering that you have the sun there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
And it's so funny because that literally, and I think part of what's going on with me in my life right now is all starting to happen. Like I'm studying EA and I'm learning how to DJ because of these crazy ideas I have of how to integrate music with my hypnosis, and other stuff is starting to pique my interest. So it's like really, really crazy. That's all starting to happen right now.
And it's nice actually, to be honest, because I will be at some point writing an article as well as doing a very in-depth MP3 on the Uranus opposition, because it's a very misunderstood archetype. A lot of souls, unfortunately, go through what is called a midlife crisis when this happens, because our world is basically defined and based on the physical, and we lack that spiritual integration. So when the Kundalini flame hits this heart chakra, what happens, and the electrical field starts to become awakened within the electrical body and such, and everybody's not awakened to their spirituality, they start suppressing this stuff, or they act irrationally. Oh, look, honey, I've just bought a car that I wanted to do at the age of 18, but now I've got the money behind it and I blew all our savings. That type of erratic behavior. And it's all over the place. So I feel like as we become more awakened to our spiritual journeys, the Uranus opposition becomes a lot more important to pay attention to, because it is a part of our lives that, if we are not acknowledging that process, does lead in men to a lot of heart attacks. And when it gets to the throat chakra, of course, the females themselves, their throat chakra, or their throat becomes suppressed. They lose their voice and they literally just give up. So it's actually quite an interesting topic that you brought up. A really powerful thing. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, to get that information out. So thanks for asking the question. Yeah,
awesome.
Really,
yeah, that's gonna be so helpful for me too, because what I see it as too, when you're talking about going out and buying the sports car and spending money, how it is suppressing what's happening inside, which is clearly the exploration of our own unique gifts. And that's where I feel like I am, and that's what's satisfying me now, like going in and diving into these things, like what am I capable of, and just really going in and exploring that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about the age thing is, when you started, you were talking about what was it, the year 1993?
Yep.
Children. So here's what I've just experienced last month. So, I'm in the festival world, the transformational festival world, and that's where I feel like that's where a lot of the tribes are coming together, and really, like, people are not making money off these things, coming in, working together, sharing their gifts. And I'm at this one in March. It's like the first one of the season, and a lot of the people I'm camping with are people that I'm getting acquainted with. I've noticed they're all 22 years old. I noticed that, like, they're all younger. So I started asking them what their ages are, and literally about 5 or 6 of them, 22, 22, 22. And I'm like, there's something so, so different about them. They have this just knowledge and understanding. Like, I'm like, and I kept saying to them, if I knew what you knew when I was your age, blah, 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 coming from somebody, I'm not too much older than them. But what I'm seeing is that they know that they have this understanding, but they need to be guided.
Yes.
And so what I'm seeing is that our generation is really going to be the ones to, as we start to go through our processes, to guide them into this.
Exactly.
Because they're so willing to be taken there.
Yes.
So willing. I witnessed one of them. we came into camp and there was just nonsense. Like, you can't do this and you can't do this, and this is saved for that person. That was, and the adults, which they were all older than me, some of them well older, were just yelling and angry. And
Yeah.
this one of them, the 22-year-old, he comes in calm and is just like, let's work together, let's figure this out. And he literally got everything taken care of, worked out, got everybody calmed down, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah. And the reason why that's the case is because they have that conjunction in Capricorn. So their underlying gift is the ability to take command, to take control. And when I say control, I don't mean in the sense of like a negative, oppressive way, but more along the lines of like sort shit out. And that's one of their biggest gifts, is the ability to be able to, when they get to this age of Uranus opposition, 40, that what their gift is going to be is to build a new society that is integrated with their teachings. But they haven't reached the point yet where they recognize what those teachings are, so that reality is so far from them that they don't understand it. Many of them do, but what they're needing is the 20 to 30 exploration of truth that is enriched in natural law. In other words, truths and laws that are intrinsic to universal cosmological understandings, not this nonsense of religion. So when they do actually get to the age of that 38, what they integrate with into the world is that exact expression, that unity consciousness, that acceptance of individuality, and how we build in a way that is across that. And you're completely right. They do need that. They're completely and utterly willing to need that process. And again, a big part of that has been set up already because of the fall of the patriarchy, or at least the coming down of the gurus and the spiritual teachers that are linked with that Uranus-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn, i.e. that there is an external savior, right? So 10th Capricorn and Neptune conjunct each other, right? In that particular instance. So Capricorn is the external savior, the father, and Neptune is that energy pattern that's asking them to seek God outside of themselves. And then Uranus, that conjunction and that connection, is how their individuality and acceleration, and also the heart chakra, because remember, again, we're coming back to the Uranus opposition. And so it's the heart chakra, Uranus. So that conjunction that's taking place is where their DNA is already activated into that higher dimension, but they come from past lives in which they have been so indoctrinated through the last 2,000 years of patriarchal conditionings of following spiritual gurus and teachers that essentially teach them that they're existing outside of themselves. And so they carry this imprint where one or both parents, or in some way, shape, or form, the authority that was in their lives guiding them, they rebel against instantly. Therefore, most of them don't even have that father archetype existentially. They don't have a proper one, or it's damaged. And that leads them to becoming vulnerable, because at the end of the day, they don't know how to parent themselves yet because their teachings have been distorted. So many of them are literally having to find with, and they're incredibly sensitive. I mean, I've done a video, not a video, but a questions and answers, as you've known, with a group of them already. And they are exactly how you've expressed it, is exactly how it is. And if there's anybody out there that is really interested in understanding what myself and Mandy are talking about right now in terms of this generation, I'm urging you to recognize that these are the future. We are the future in that particular instance, because we're going to show them that we're going to recreate this new spiritual teaching that is integrating these cosmic laws. That's our journey. Once we've laid that road, then they walk that road, simulating that consciousness, and then they get to build that stuff. So, and then obviously their job is to build a world that allows the Pluto in Sagittarius souls, who are born from 1995 onwards up until 2008, to then actually go and live in that place.
Yeah.
So this is the fabric of consciousness is evolving like that, and each of us has this role to play in that way, and it's highly dependable. I mean, I for one am knowing straight away that what I'm telling you right now is putting a lot of responsibility on humanity. And I think that it's about time that everybody gets their finger out their butt in some way, shape, or form, and starts recognizing that this planet needs us.
Yeah. And I think, on that, and I think that was a huge theme in all of the videos that you released in this past week, that It is happening. I mean, it's slow. It's slowly, but it is definitely happening. I'm seeing it more and more. And, people talk about things like, the whole money thing, but I see people with a lot of money, waking up to all of this. And I think that it's going to be great when that starts to happen more, because they're the ones that have a lot of power, and
Yep.
how do they know how to contribute using their money? And
Yep.
it'll all start to kind of trickle into
Yeah.
this new wave of living.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think the money thing is a really sensitive issue,
Hmm.
and again, from my point of view, at the end of the day, you still live in the physical, and the physical needs nourishment, and
Mm.
we still have a paradigm where that control system is in place. So we've got to break it from the inside out, but we are not yet at a point where every single one of us can facilitate that breaking. That you can't just take it away. You need to do it progressively. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm sure
Mhm.
you probably understand, and many souls out there that are listening to this again will get that understanding. So it is a progressive thing that we're breaking down. And I do feel that when Uranus hits Taurus in 2018, no, actually I lie, 2012 plus 7 is 2019. So 2019, Uranus is now in Aries at the moment, which is why we're having this awakening stuff. But when it hits Taurus in 2019, we're going to have radical shift in the
Mm.
way that we understand our needs and resources. And I'm telling every single person now, as you're listening to this conversation, this is not about fear. This is about understanding where we're heading. That Uranus through Taurus is going to make every single person on this planet recognize where your values and needs are. And if they are not entrenched in helping the planet evolve and to get rid of the parasites that are existing here, there is going to be mass. Like you're going to have shit taken away from you. The material world is going to
Yeah.
dissolve in that sense. And that's when real awakenings are going to happen with people, because they're going to start to realize that what they're holding on to, that physical security, is setting themselves up for the law of impermanence, which is that the only thing that in the universe that actually stays is energy and change. That's why we experience loss, abandonment, betrayal in our lives, because of the fact that we are connecting our security to physicalness. And it's
I went through a big lesson with that. It happened, started over the summer, and basically carried through almost the end of 2014, where I lost my home and I lost my cat of 14 years, and I was starting to lose money in my job. It was like this period of loss. And it got to a point where I just surrendered to it. But I held my vision of
yes,
because I'm big on vision, visualization work, and doing all that creation. And I got exactly what I wanted. I landed in Venice, California, in a big giant house that's underpriced with amazing roommates, to start a little
yeah,
community house. And it was exactly what I wanted, but it was all in surrendering,
yeah,
accepting that I didn't need what was being taken
yeah,
away from me, and
right.
holding to my vision.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful message for everybody to hear at that stage as well. In that sense,
Mm.
because that is the case. The value in things needs to shift from experiences of internal and how to, like, for instance, you know, we will start to become more blatantly it will become more blatantly obvious that what is happening on the earth right now is there are some dark stuff going down. There is some dark, evil things that are happening here. And I'm bringing everybody's attention to this, not because of the fact of the love vibration, etc., but to recognize that the reason why we are approaching this reality from the way that we are is because if we're going to consistently keep, and this is, I want to share this over here because this is one of the things that really, really drives home this point as it stands, that in Nepal just recently had this earthquake. And so what happens is that we've been so desensitized to the aid of of our own species that we sit on the other side, and people are going like, we pray for you, we pray for you, pray for you, but nobody actually takes action
Mm-hmm.
to go, how do we actually help those people there? So it's all good and well that we sit here in our comfortable places, and it's that process. Oh, I'm going to pray for you. And yeah, fair enough, energy, whatever of the sort. But if we're not actually doing something in the physical as well, that's also contributing to the stuff. And I'm not blaming anybody whatsoever. This is not a blame game. This is not to make everybody feel crap. But I realized that I was going to make a video on that and say, hey, like, we need to pay attention to the story. And in the moment, as I was thinking about that, I had to recognize that I needed to be a leader in that process as well and do something to show that this is what I mean in the message.
Yeah.
Now, I actually have somebody that's existing in Nepal at this point in time. He unfortunately didn't come through because he's hiding, he was existing in some mountains doing some stuff over there and is very far from that space. But what I'm trying to say is that as we move forward into Earth and we start to see more of the things happening that are not in alignment with like humanity, in other words, the heart, like treating us the way that we do, we've got to start recognizing that we've got to help that. We've got to fix that in some way, shape, or form. And that's what I
I
meant with
agree.
Uranus moving through Taurus and Uranus. And this thing is that we'll become very, very aware of what the problem is, to the point where it's no longer about love and light anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say? And
Mm-hmm.
the spiritual mastery in your own life is dealing with your own stuff over there, but on the planet itself, it's still visible there, and we need to do something about it in that particular.
Can I
Yeah.
share an example of something I created last
Yeah.
year that was through this crazy time?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I teach people too. So with my visualization work, it was early last year, and I was living in a 1-bedroom garden apartment, and my neighbors just got so crazy noisy all of a sudden, like so disruptive. And it got to a space where it was just so difficult for me to live there. And I was starting to feel just so unpeaceful. So I said, okay, I know how this works. I need to embody the feelings of peace in order to create peace in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started doing my visualization work, when I would create what it's like to live in a peaceful home, I started getting visions of this house on the beach. And it was so crystal clear. It was all white inside. And I saw myself in the morning going out on the balcony, drinking my coffee in the morning, and just embodying those feelings of peace. So I was working on that, and I was working on it for a few months. So one day this was when I was still in school. This was like around June of last year. I overhear a conversation with one of my classmates saying how she was going away for 2 weeks and she had nobody to watch her cat. I knew she lived in the next town over from me. I didn't know what her space was like or anything, but I was like, I'm right near you. I'll come and watch your cat every day. It's no problem. And she's like, great, come over and, meet the cat over the weekend. And I walk into this space, and it was what was in my vision. It was this penthouse in the marina, 4-bedroom, beautiful, amazing penthouse. It was exactly what I had envisioned. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, so I feel that in that instance, I created it. And not only that, it was in my taking action in overhearing that and giving without any expectation of getting anything back for it is what brought me into my creation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
And then what ended up happening was I was there for 2 weeks watching her cat. And then she was like, she came back and she was like, how are things in your home? And I'm like, they're crazy. It's just so nonsense. She's like, well, why don't you come and stay with me? I might be moving in a few months, but if you want to give up your apartment, come stay with me, rent free. So there I was, like, and she did I was there for 2 months. She did end up moving, but it was like, I created that peaceful home.
There's something that I want to also bring to the awareness in this conversation that I felt is also important is that what you were also doing at the same time in some way, shape, or form is acting in a humane way, which was taking somebody else's issue and then sacrificing your own needs and desires in that way to help somebody else in that particular instance. And that's what I feel is really important to recognize in that journey, is that it was an extending hand to say, I can let go of my personal desires, needs, and facilitate somebody else's needs so that their life can also, because that's what life is about, and like that caring, sharing, and integration that I feel is really, really important, that brought you to that. Because at the end of the day, that also was part of the reason as to why she would have offered you that position, because you in some way, shape, or form created a rapport with her and did something of the kindness of your heart, which led for that response to come back. And I feel like that's something that we need to embody more. That when we do see opportunities and situations where we can help another person out in some way, shape, or form, we do that. I'm not saying for us to jump in and just completely and utterly go overboard. Obviously, we have to create balance. But whenever there's an opportunity to help another soul out in some way, shape, or form, be it a big priority, because I feel like we'd always get responded back
Yeah,
in that way.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so now, it's fun to play with visualization work. I've had some other crazy experiences too.
Can imagine.
Creative. Hmm.
Yep. Was there anything else that you wanted to chat about or anything of the sort?
I would just love to know. So, being that I'm still relatively new to EA and I'm starting to talk to people about it, get people's perspective, how would you very succinctly say to somebody the difference between EA and, the traditional astrology, that Western astrology that we know?
Well, I suppose I've got to really try and understand my response to that because, or pay attention to my own response. I think that's, give me a moment over here because my brain does not give me the ability to put something in a very solidified form. It has to make things bigger because there's more information interacting with it. So I've got to kind of like tune this a little bit. But I would say that EA finds you. You don't find it. And the reason why I say that is because evolutionary astrology in itself is not looking at how is my identity and what are my personality traits. It's going, you're ready to open up to a world of information that is existing within, and you're going to be understanding and accepting truths about yourself that you might not necessarily want to explore. So really, it's about soul work. And usually when people are starting to search within, they start to find forms like EA because EA is asking the bigger questions like, why am I here? What is my soul's purpose? Why do I behave like this? Self-awareness and such. And to a certain degree, a lot of people, I feel, like I said, EA finds you because in that process, it becomes you in that sense. It becomes into your awareness. Whereas EA can be right in front of you, but you would choose mundane astrology. So the difference, I would say, in that particular instance is one soul work and the healing modality, i.e., to look within deep self-awareness, and the other is just it's like, yeah, I don't really know how to differentiate the two, to be honest. I think that the best way that I can share that is how I've given it across without becoming too complicated.
Right. Well, that makes sense with it, in the short version, because it's, the reading I had with you and what I'm understanding now as I'm learning it is just not anything like I've ever heard about astrology. Like, regular astrology calls Pluto the destroyer. Whereas in EA, Pluto represents the soul. And I guess with some of the perspective, it can kind of make sense why it's called the destroyer.
Well, okay, here we go. Thank you very much for doing that. The difference between evolutionary astrology and Western astrology is that evolutionary astrology works on three main principles. Number one, it looks at the core root of something, okay, not its behavior. It looks at the core of it. What is the actual archetype itself? Not the ramifications, because Pluto itself has actually been coined the destroyer because its actions are evolution. But we as human beings victimize ourselves and go, oh, it's the destroyer, but actually it's creating evolution. And the reason why it's called the destroyer is because it doesn't give you the opportunity to resist the unconscious emotional security patterns that you're holding on to and fixated to. It just takes it away and says you will evolve. Depending on how much resistance you give to yourself will dictate how painful the experience is going to be. People don't want change. It challenges their security. So we give it things like, we demonize it. It's the destroyer. And that's what frustrates me. You can see the energies already coming out of me at this point in time. The reason why I do the work that I do, because I just want to smash all these paradigms and go, no, it's our own perceived weakness and wanting to hold on to our idealisms that put us in that situation and say it's a destroyer. It's not at all. That's the first thing, the core of it. So Pluto itself will be acting as a destroyer, but the root of it is evolution, i.e., we have a desire, It sets in motion a behavior pattern. So a reason why it's called the soul, and I was explaining this to somebody today, and sorry I've gone off on a tangent, but I hope that this information is valuable in some way, is that in every single, like if you take your day, and let's say, for instance, in the day, you have a series of choices that you make. And each of those choices that you make correlates to a experience of reality, time-space continuum, a timeline, okay? So if you just observe your day, observe the amount of choices you made, and notice that when you are the source of it and you make a choice, you go along a road, okay? So Pluto itself tells you how those choices are intrinsically being made from the root. What is the desire that is portraying this reason to go down this road? Now, in every day, you make these little small finite choices, but when you amplify it to your life, the soul has made a choice to come into this incarnation. That's why Pluto itself and evolutionary astrology will correlate to, on a bigger scale, the soul's choices over its entire cosmic span. Because each time a soul makes a choice to incarnate, it's the same thing as you making a choice to go along to do something in your day. Do you see the difference in how I'm elastic banding this process?
Mm-hmm.
And so the depth that we have in EA is principle number 2, the depth of it. What are we looking for? We're not looking at the surface of it and trying to find these little flimsy definitions that everybody must attune to. Oh, look, I have Mars in Cancer. And I'm being sarcastic on purpose because I hate it. I hate the fact that it does a disservice to humanity. And it's the truth. Oh, Mars in Cancer, so therefore I must be this, that, or the next thing. And then what we do is we walk around with these ego identities that I have Mars in Cancer, so therefore I'm like this. And then what you're actually doing is suppressing your own self journey because you're not even accessing what it means to you individually. Because that Mars in Cancer holds a specific portal of information that is specific to your journey. So why in God's creation would we want to generalize it? So that's why when you look at any form of astrology after you see A and you go, bullshit, it can't be that way. Yes, there's great definitions, fantastic, and it leads you along that road. But if you honestly are wanting to do something serious about your spiritual work, then you use something like EA because it's the boss. It's daddy. It takes astrology and goes, this is a science of observation and correlation. This is not some flimsy predictive crap. That's why you would have noticed that I wouldn't have given you any predictions in your astrology, because at the end of the day, if I predict something for you, I intrinsically condition your reality.
It's hypnosis. You're suggesting things.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say if you came across somebody that was asking you the difference between modern astrology or modicum or mundane, etc., it serves its purpose. That's okay. But if you're serious about it, then you go into the real stuff and then that's it. Like once you've gone on that rabbit hole, it's game over. You become obsessed.
Yes, exactly.
That's why it's called Pluto.
Which is where I've gone now.
Right.
So enjoying it though. So enjoying it.
Yep. So I suppose then you can ask the person the question. The difference between the two is what do you want to know about your life? How deep do you want to go? Do you want to know the actual truth, or do you want to know what has been described based on human characteristics? Another example that I can give you as well, the reason why I love EA so much, it's not a belief system. That's the best part about it.
Yeah.
The reason why is because the 12 archetypes themselves are actually things that you can see in your reality and justify. You can see it there. Everybody can see that observable fact. Therefore, I'm not convincing you of something. I'm telling you, you look for yourself. But that's what you're looking at is the fabric of time-space reality. Hence the zodiac and having the 12 signs. So it's about what is real versus what we perceive it to be. So.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Really clear. Yeah. Give me a clarity in that aspect too. Cool.
And again, you would have noticed in my conversation or the way that I portray that it's like it's deep within myself. It's like, you know what, I have that anger, that frustration in a particular instance. And so much of it gets channeled through clearing the bullshit.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you're getting all that frustration out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think through the frustration, you're in turn helping a lot of people. Giving a lot of new perspective. At least I can speak for myself.
Right. I think one thing that's really, really helpful to a lot of souls as well, and I talk from direct experience because I had Saturn in my 10th house, And I would read up about this and be like, oh, you got to be the honorable person. You got to do this type of stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, fantastic. And here I go along playing this egocentric structure of got to be honorable. And here comes a situation where I blatantly was being abused in that way, being, having abusive expression to me. And I jump into the ego structure of going, I need to be honorable in this situation. Blah, blah, blah. Instead of going, no, that's my boundary and I don't like to be treated like that. Thank you very much. That's not okay. So you see where the disservice comes in.
Yeah.
That's what I'm acting at. Is that people, then what happens is we have a pacifier in our mouths and it gets shoved there, and all of a sudden we behave based on these control mechanisms again. And people that have got Mars in Virgo, Venus in Virgo, any planets in the Virgo archetype in itself, you carry lifetimes of persecution and judgment and inner sense of lack. And you hyper-rationalize the nuts out of everything. And you also do many, many lists. And the reason why this is the case is because on an unconscious level, the Virgo archetype's polarity point is Pisces. And because we have been devoid of the truth about our spirituality for so long, the void that exists when we're actually alone with ourselves is so intense that we create lists and things to do to keep us busy so that we don't access that part of ourselves that feels like we're lost.
Yeah.
Because of the absence of our spirituality that exists within. So busy, 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 busy. And then all of a sudden you get this text saying that Virgo's busy. And it's like...
But that, I think that for EA, that what you just in your own experience with the Saturn in 10th house was, that's where it helped me the most too. Is I think one of our core things, and what I deal with a lot of my clients, is this being hard on ourselves about whatever it is. And for me, it's like I would be hard on myself about wanting to learn new things and being diverse and feeling like I never focused on something. Also, I'm a big communicator. I just love expressing myself. I love telling stories about everything. And then you gave me that perspective that it was right there in my chart. So it gave me permission to really also sit back and say, that is a core part of who I am. Yep. And I don't need to be hard on myself. And I can use that for my own evolution. And how can I use that to serve people? And how can I use that to express myself? Exactly. And that's where it really helped me.
Yep. Correct. Exactly. Precisely. So yeah, I really hope that's something that I really want to do as soon as I start, as you do the evolutionary astrology and you start becoming good at it, that you become a vehicle to help other souls as well, because there are many, many souls at this point in time that need that understanding, need that validation to say, hey, by the way, how you actually are acting is completely okay, in the sense of if you're always feeling like you need to express yourself, but the rules tell you got to be this way. So, yeah.
Awesome.
There's something that I'm busy working on at the moment that I feel is probably going to be one of the most significant ways to read an astrology chart. But it is going to take a lot of like self-mastery. And so I feel like I'm going to practice it until I get it right. But I feel like this is the ultimate reading. And that is that each of the astrology charts in itself has these 12 archetypes. And then what happens is that you have the south nodes of all of those 12 archetypes. So we've got this moon. So some people call karmic astrology, and they got the south node of the moon, north node of the moon, and then the placement of the moon itself in the astrology chart. And it tells us how we are always in a constant state of becoming. That's a truth. We're always consistently in a constant state of becoming. That is what is called the rising sign, or in this particular instance, right ascension, i.e. that as you wake up in the morning, you're constantly becoming aware of that reality in every moment. Again, the equator and the ecliptic shows you the spirituality on Earth right now. There's no belief system. You just look at nature, you look at how it's been set up, and then you can see for yourself who we really are. Again, those are intrinsic there. Every single morning is your rising sign, hence the reason why it's called the rising sign. So it has absolutely nothing to do with an egocentric structure that one naturally goes to. You can't, because it's a part of yourself that you haven't discovered yet. So in every single moment, you actually act from your descendant, not your ascendant. And so many people have been walking around with these ego structures going, I have Aquarius on my ascendant, and I'm Aquarian in this way, but actually you've been acting in a Leonic way, i.e. in order for you to basically feel secure within yourself, you speak a lot to attract people to you so that you can then understand which group is available for you and which isn't through your self-expression. Whereas really the ascendant is asking you to get attached and observe the group. And then when you interact with the group, you express yourself. And the difference in that action over there, and you'll start to notice more of self-awareness in that process. That's just one of the things. But what I'm really getting to is that these planetary symbols in the chart actually have south nodes themselves, and they are making angles and aspects. And we are not separate. Therefore, every aspect in the astrology chart is operating simultaneously. There is no, that Mars and Venus is not operating independently of Pluto, and it's not operating independently of Cancer. So when I'm going, oh, I have Neptune in the third house and it's doing this description, and I'm like, but it can't be, because Pluto itself is the core basis of this experience. And if you have Neptune in third house in Sagittarius, your likelihood of you actually operating from that Sagittarius is not even the case, because you're actually operating from the south node of Neptune, because everything is coming from a place of experience to a place of knowing, and then you act from that space. So therefore, you're actually acting from the south node of that planet, which could be in the 12th house Pisces, which means that you've identified yourself as a third house Sagittarius, but really you're actually operating from the 12th house Pisces, and you're walking around with this false identity. Oh.
You're moving a little fast for me now,
Yeah,
but I
that's
get
okay.
it. That everything is like integrated, working together simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that the ultimate reading in terms of EA, when you look at it, is encompassing, if you can see this picture on the background of here, like this middle piece with my head is over there would correlate to this life. But you are a collective being experiencing yourself as an infinite consciousness, which means that when you're acting in this moment, you're integrating timelines in different spaces that you've existed in different times. So what I'm trying to say is that EA gives you that opportunity to understand those portals. And when you integrate it within yourself, you're holistic. Now imagine the empowerment that comes through that and the authenticity that comes through that. So that's something that's really, really, really cool and exciting that I want to explore first within myself so that I can honestly speak from its space. And then I want to basically share it. But that is the ultimate reading, in my opinion. None of this, I'm off my soapbox at the moment.
Sounds great. Sign me up when you're ready.
Cool. Okay, I have literally about 15 minutes left before I've got another reading. So what I'm going to do is say thank you to everyone that's participated in this experience. I really hope that some of your questions were answered in this way. And I think a lot of people are going to get a good information out of this discussion. So yeah, cool. So I have to end it at this point in time. That's what I mean. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is I had a great time. Thank you very much. A lot was cleared up for me. I enjoy speaking with you. Yeah, excited.
Okay. Well, have a good day, because I believe you're in the States at the moment. So your day is arriving. And take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.